Welcome. You're listening to This Leader, the podcast. If you lead people and are seeking the transformational, high-impact secrets that will lead to greater joy and fulfillment in your work, will optimize your team performance, and will help you create a happy, highly productive workplace, then you are this leader and you're in the right place. I'm your host, Claire Laughlin, and each week my guests and I will explore the mindsets, techniques, and actionable strategies that will help you build the career, team, and organization of your dreams. Because I believe no one should have to suffer in a dysfunctional workplace. Let's get started. Well, hello. Welcome back to This Leader. My guest today is Erika Leonard. Erika set out to build a communication resource for employees with disabilities. She wanted to be able to support people with disabilities and their employers to help improve the world of work. And I absolutely love that. So she did what any great researcher does. She listened. She and her team went from employer to employer, interviewed person after person, and heard story after story about the challenges of navigating the workplace as someone with a visible or invisible disability. And what they discovered was that the solutions apply to all of us. And that pivot led to something really remarkable that we're going to talk about today. Erika is a co-leader of the WorkPower Project, created by the team at safetypowers.org. And that's the adult services branch of KidPower International. And I know you've heard me talk about KidPower International. With 31 years of teaching communication and safety skills to people of all ages and abilities, Erika brings a rare combination of deep expertise and genuine practicality to the often overlooked art of workplace communication. So today, we're talking about how leaders can show up more fully for employees of all abilities and what quietly gets in the way. Here's my conversation with Erika Leonard.
Claire.
Hello, Erika. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Claire. It is a joy to be here.
It is a joy to have you. I've been very excited for this conversation for a long time. So our listeners know that you and I go way back and have served together in a nonprofit, now known as safetypowers.org,
Yes.
for a long, long time. Also a nonprofit by other names, but we will talk about that later. But safetypowers.org, very much known for personal safety and boundary setting.
Yes.
And gosh, those are wonderful, empowering words and things.
Absolutely.
And you've adapted that framework for workplace conversations in a lot of different forms. But specifically, one of the things we're going to kind of touch on today is workplace conversations about disability and neurodivergence. And tell me that story. Walk me through the evolution of that. What's the connection? Like, what brought you to workplace communication from the history?
Yeah. And that links with the history of our name, right? Safetypowers.org. Safety Powers is the adult education branch of KidPower International. And KidPower International, which was established in 1989, serves all ages and abilities. And we have always led workplace communication workshops in our adult work. That's always been part of what we've done. In 2024, we were working on a project called WorkPower, which folks can find at safetypowers.org/workpower. It's a course that is made by, for, and with people who have disabilities for skills for workplace communication. And so that's yet another niche, right, within our adult work.
Right.
And as we were working on WorkPower, you know, Claire, as does probably everybody listening to this podcast, the importance of listening.
Right.
We were listening, right? We don't just go develop a thing, we listen. And so we were listening to the experiences of people who navigate the world of work, interviews, dealing with customers, while being a person who has a disability, visible, invisible, known, or unknown.
Right.
And in listening to those stories and listening and listening and listening, we began to hear some themes. And some of those we could address in WorkPower. There were definitely skills like, oh, yeah, having this skill and that skill for workplace communication could really benefit. Yet at the same time, we were hearing among many stories of really what you want in the workplace is connection. And we were hearing a lot of disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stories we were hearing were about breakdowns in communication with an employer or a supervisor. Often, from the context of the story, you could imagine quite well intentioned, wanting things to go well. But we thought we could teach this person lots of skills, but there's two people in this conversation. And it became clear to us that we had never made anything that was really about workplace communication for the leadership side. We've always done it in workshops, but we've never made a thing.
Okay.
And so that's how Work Power for Employers.
Work power for employers. Okay, so let me just tease that out and make sure that's clear. So you started by really looking at the intersection of communication skills and workplace skills for people with disabilities or divergent thinking styles.
Yes.
And then that branch, and then you saw very quickly in there, wait a minute, this is truly just about people communicating better, being open, connecting, having those open conversations, understanding one another, and you broadened.
Yes, it was more complex than we had envisioned, right? Because when we began that process, we thought, hey, we'll really target this resource, Work Power, for people who have disabilities and make all the examples workplace communication situations.
Right.
Us that as we were doing it, we recognized that others bring skills or lack of skills to those communications and that there was much more that we could delve into.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And just because I don't want to bypass the opportunity here, the Work Powers course is so good. And I don't want to miss an opportunity to just say right up front, can you share with people how they can get to that and see it? I mean, everything you're doing in safetypowers.org is fabulous, but I just want to highlight this before we move on.
Yes, thank you for that. If people go directly to Safety Powers, that has an S, safetypowers.org, both these two resources are right at the top. Work Power for Employers as well as Work Power, Skills for Getting and Keeping Jobs.
Fantastic. They're so good. They're so, so good. Compelling videos. I just feel that what you've done there with showing videos of real workplace examples of this is an example of what you don't want. This is an example of kind of the middle ground of, a little bit better. And then here's an example of it going really quite well. I think those are really powerful to help people see the nuance and the difference between, having a real two-way conversation that's really workable versus what I might call the counterfeit of a two-way conversation, where we're trying, but we're not quite getting there. And I don't mean any ill intent in that, but maybe you could just tease that out a little bit for me, Erika, real quick. Like, give some context for our listeners about what I just said. Like, what is the difference in a communication between a manager and an employee, for example, that's not going so well versus one that's sort of midline and one that's quite good? What's the difference there?
Well, and as we think about those three levels, which you can see, it's important for us to highlight that when folks go there and when you share it with your own employees and your teams, we strive not to tell people, here's what you should do, to just most people don't like being lectured about what they should do, but rather we strive to teach skills and we also strive to show the outcomes. So in that first level where things go poorly, there's no lecturing that accompanies it. We all sort of watch it together and go, oh,
Yeah. Well, that didn't go so well.
and that's ultimately how we built those levels is that otherwise we're just left with talking. And so many employers have told us, I try to explain. When we onboard new people, we say, listen, show curiosity, right? We as leaders are trying to teach our new folk work, and it's all in the language realm of just saying.
Mm-hmm.
What our expertise at the broader organization of Kid Power International since 1989 is turning problems into practices. How do you practice, right? If you want to do CPR, you do it on the dummy. You don't read the book.
Right.
When I get my new EpiPen, it comes with a practice EpiPen so that I and my loved ones practice, right? Practice is central to success. And so much of leadership can be talking and saying or putting things in a book or on a poster. And so the three types of outcome conversations really give people, if you have a workplace team, they give them a shared subject to look at. It's not personal. It's not about you, Claire, or me, Erika, on the team. We're just watching people we don't know.
Right.
We watch them try that conversation 3 times, and that gives us some emotional distance. we can stand back and say, what was the outcome there? Could anybody have done anything differently? And we do put those prompts in there to guide, but so many leaders listening to this will be able to pause here, pause there, and interject what their top priorities are, which is what we do.
Yes, exactly. So, isn't that great too? Because we can just, if we can get that little bit of perspective and distance and see, oh my gosh, watch them do that. Do I do that? How do I do that? And you know what else I love about those videos is that it doesn't put the responsibility on either party independently, right? It shows that the success in any given communication is co created. It's absolutely the outcome of both people coming sort of open hearted and as skillfully as possible to the conversation.
Yes. Including the skills for when we miscommunicate and make mistakes.
Yes.
Skill to fix it can be so strengthening.
Ah, repair.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I think repair is one of the most overlooked kinds of things that we discuss and teach
Yes.
because we're all going to mess up.
Absolutely. Our goal is not to put forth something that says, here, achieve this level of perfection. The goal is we're all going to be our imperfect selves. And that's perhaps what makes us perfect for our position.
Right.
So to have the skills and strategies to maximize those imperfections so that when I mess up, am I going to try to mask that, hide it, brush it off? Or am I going to be able to make something through the repair process that strengthens our team and thereby strengthens our business?
Oh, that's fantastic. And that is so true. We learn the most, absolutely the most, and the fastest when we make a mistake
Yes.
and then we are given the space and sometimes the prompts or the support to look back and learn from that
Yes.
and decide on an improvement
Yes.
and practice an improvement.
Right. But if we slip into self blame and shaming ourselves, oh, I can't believe I did that. If we could get off course and lose some opportunities.
Right. Absolutely. So, even in those videos, though, for example, and I love how you say that there's really no lecture there. You can see so much just by observing, but there's some principles at play.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about some of those principles? What are the principles that, and even, I mean, independent from the videos, okay, but what are some of the principles that safetypowers.org sort of stands by in terms of really powerful and connected, clear workplace communication?
Yes. Overall, the skills we teach at all ages are to be and act aware, take charge, and get help. So, awareness is quite central in this. It includes the self awareness of myself as a leader,
Yeah.
right? Anybody coming to this, that self awareness, staying reflective. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Has it slipped into unconscious habit because it's what I've always done? In which case, it may be useful, but has it become less effective? Does it no longer serve? I may not notice if I'm no longer being aware.
Right.
Taking charge so much of safety and positive communication. We highlight all the time the skills for being safe are the same skills for strengthening relationships, boundaries, advocacy, projecting calm and confidence, speaking up about what you need. They're the same. So much of taking charge in the context of the workplace would, in a leadership spot, be speaking up, overcoming discomfort so that
Right.
I can feel uncomfortable, but can I take steps so that my discomfort does not stop me from acting? Because inaction is also an action.
Wait, let me say that again. Inaction is also an action. Yes, that is so, so true.
Because your inaction will also be observed and will communicate something. And perhaps less under your control what it's going to communicate because you're not making a conscious choice. Curiosity, it's hard to create curiosity. If you tell somebody, be curious, sometimes you say, I'm not curious. I'm busy, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm tired. But if we shift that and say, this is my team, this is my business, what is getting in the way? That is curiosity, right? It doesn't be that
I'm embodying it. Yeah.
curiosity and interest can show up in many, many ways that are authentic to lots and lots of ways of being. But questioning rather than assuming I know.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And then listening, right? Speaking, but speaking in such a way that I could perhaps direct the conversation so that I learned something I didn't already know.
Right. Yes.
Because those, as a leader, I want to know what I don't know because there may be factors here impacting the direction our ship is going.
Right. And isn't that so subtle? It's really like such an internal state, I think, of showing up for the express purpose of learning something or understanding the situation in a broader sense than you already do.
Yes.
I need to understand more deeply where what the other person is seeing, feeling, experiencing, noticing, you know, that kind of thing. Not listening so that I can then jump in with my assessment of what this situation really is.
Right. And I get that additional information, how I take charge of this conversation. And taking charge doesn't mean the other one is not participating.
Right.
My methods of taking charge, which are really reflected, especially in the third level, there's one where it's the fourth one, where the employer is really in the video, really rocking the skills we want people to really consider.
Yeah.
Taking charge creates space for another to take charge. Like you can take charge together. It's not me taking charge over you, it's me taking charge with you. And it can become so productive.
Oh, you've got to share an example of this. Tell me, okay, let's just unpack that a tiny bit because there's so much wisdom in everything you're saying. I want to stop you at the end of every sentence, but I'm not going to. But taking charge with someone as opposed to taking charge over the situation or over the person. I love that. Let's just tease that out a little bit.
So when people go in and work power for employers, they'll find that there are modules, and each module includes the two humans who have a similar conversation about the same topic 3 times. They're not in order of time, right? It's not one leads to the next. There are 3 alternative universes, perhaps. And I am thinking, as we're talking about this, about work done wrong. There's one called Work Done Wrong.
Okay.
And in that, see Brandy and Terry. But it's many of the modules boil down common patterns. So when I say Brandy and Terry, right, it's a common pattern that reflects it. Terry is in the supervisor role, and Terry in this first level video is really clear about this was not, you created this work product, and this is not what I asked for.
Right.
And really at that first level of video, we really see what maybe we as leaders in our most tired, most exhausted Friday evening places feel.
Right.
Whether we lead from that space or not, and hopefully we minimize that.
Right.
But that feeling of why I thought I was clear really shows that. She shows what happens when we as leaders let that pour out.
Yeah.
And so you hear her say things like, I was clear. I ended up doing this myself, which becomes her then taking over, which is not what we mean by taking charge. She doesn't use the words taking over, but she has now done the thing and also then feels resentful about it. So that's at that first level. And Brandy, who is the employee, because there is no taking charge to create a conversation,
Right.
Brandy is on the receiving end of a great many upset words
Yes.
by somebody who is in charge of her employment, thereby her rent.
Oh, yes. Right.
Like it's a deer in the headlights moment when a worker is with someone that with that level of power
Right.
who has kind of, as Terry shows admirably, many of the employers, when they got to that point, say, I'm not sure we want to do this. And Brandy said, this is our goal. Like, I want you to do this. We are doing this together. Everything is with deep consent, right? So really all you see Brandy do in that first video is like sitting and
Recoiling.
saying worse. If she said it, she might make it worse, right? It's best to just wait. And then she says something like, thank you for telling me. That is not a productive outcome. The worker has not gotten anything. Terry herself
Right.
has
Zero understanding of what really happened there.
maybe now just exhausted because she stayed up and did the work and has now spent 3 minutes yelling about it.
Right.
And maybe quite drained. She's depleting herself, but they haven't moved forward. In the third video, you see that the same situation is true. The work was not done the way Terry wanted it done, but she begins differently. talk to me about what happened here, and learns so much.
Interesting. Yes.
And it's simply that shift. There is also a difference that shows that there. She asks a question that comes up at one point in the first one where she says, "What are you doing with your eyes?" And you can see on a Zoom meeting, right? If people look like they're looking at something else, we've all done this. And you see some eye behavior. It's quite visible for those who are sighted. You can see that Brandy's got some eye behavior that's not what the employer might be expecting
Right.
on the Zoom meeting, and says it quite rudely. "What are you doing?"
Right.
And he says, "I'm hard of hearing. I'm reading the caption," which are down lower, right? And Terry rolls her eyes as if, "Oh, one more thing," right? These are disconnecting things. That was put there intentionally by folks who have given us input as folks who are hard of hearing, these exasperated sighs that come from. Whereas in the third video, Terry asks the same question, but from a place of caring. She notices the eye behavior.
Yeah.
But instead of saying, "What are you doing? What are you like onliners? Are you like doing social media?" I don't remember what she says. But she says, "Is everything okay?"
Yeah.
Right? Somebody could actually be distracted by email or by something. But do we know that it's that they're shopping? Could we come from a place of good intent? It's a small shift and it changes the tone. And Terry models that beautifully in a way that we find that through just words and meetings and trainings that are word-based of new supervisors, that employers tell us it's very hard to capture that.
Right.
And through that, when you watch that, when you learn so much, Terry says, "Are there other things I can do?"
Right.
Thank you. Of course, you're using the captioning. Are there other things that I could do that would make it even easier? They hit this really positive spiral.
Yeah.
And so at the end, that initial product had been done wrong,
Yeah.
but Terry didn't do it herself.
Yeah.
Brandy has the opportunity to do it again. And there were good reasons why it was the way it was, as you learning. And so that it's a small shift in intention that can really unlock potential. And that captures to me that process of taking charge in a way that Brandy too can be taking charge. This is where there's no shame and blame and they're not expressing anger. We can't tell by looking at people what they're feeling. So
Yeah.
they're not expressing anger in that part. And I don't believe they're feeling it.
Right. Yeah, because, the tone of voice often will give it away. Of course, people can hide it, but, the tone of voice is what we're looking at. We're looking at the facial expressions. We're looking at the pace of your voice and, of course, the quality of your words and all that. We have an astounding ability to read those micro expressions that show up, which is why I always think it's so important to start inside, to start with that positive intention, that self-awareness, that willingness to co-create an outcome together. Like, this is both of us. This isn't just me. This isn't just you. If we're going to move forward, let's do so with some caring and some intentionality behind it.
And what an incredible way to invest in your team.
Absolutely.
That is perhaps one of the most educational activities an employer could engage in. So skill-based, so applicable to their business. And those things you were mentioning, the voice, the eye contact, the tone of voice, we created a presenter script. There's an educational arc and formatting over all of these so that when people watch the videos, there's training provided with it. But they're also designed so that nobody should feel obligated or constrained to using anything in any particular way. You could just watch this 30-second piece if that's most important for your own training for your own team.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. I think another thing that's really important here is that we really see these skills can be applicable for people of, again, all ages and abilities. I think about some of the clients I work with directly who have very young people in their workforce, first time at work, summer jobs, things like that.
Yes.
First work experience, all the way up to incredibly seasoned professionals, executive level, people that have been in the workforce for decades. And then, so all ages, all levels, all abilities. Are the same things true? Do you find that the same principles are true?
Yes. We teach a core skill set, even to toddlers. It's the same. Boundary setting, advocacy, speaking up. What's different is what people want. I often say that it's somewhat like using a hammer.
Yeah.
Like a hammer pretty much works the same way for any human who picks it up.
Right.
You might get a slightly larger one or bigger one, but its physics don't change. What's different is what you want to do with it.
Right.
And so as well as your experience with it, right? A child is more likely to cause some harm with a hammer or break an appliance or something because as people are young, you need to factor in the life experience. But also folks who are older who haven't had the coaching and the modeling that they deserve. Just because somebody is in our business doesn't mean that they received the boundary setting guidance or the protection that they deserved. That really was their birthright.
Right.
And they can begin where they are. So when we as leaders assume, well, you're 35, you're 50, you should have X, Y, and Z. Again, I can be self-reflective. How did I get to that conclusion that that age alone, it's a skill.
Right.
Start anytime.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see that kind of assumption creeping in so readily when somebody is or applying for a more advanced position. You're looking for someone else must have shown them these skills along the way, right? You're looking for certain kinds of, and I don't think every employer's obligated to, how do I say this? Start at the beginning. You know what I mean? I mean, we need to know what we're looking for and we need to have conscientious ways of sort of, I guess I'd say, selecting people into the right roles.
This was another thing that came up that will be reflected through 2026 and as we continue to build these. The question of I, as a supervisor, might be quite comfortable with what I know I'm looking for, but am I positive it's not there just by using my standard methods of interviewing?
Oh, right.
That theme, while we don't have one that's focused on interviews, many, 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 many humans who are shining pieces of gold for your business
Mm-hmm.
do not shine face to face at a table with a voice-based
Right.
interview. And so, yes, we know what we're looking for, but do we know that that's the best way to find that that's what we're looking for? Or do we always know what the package is for that thing? Or is that just what we've always thought the package looked like because of our own limited experience?
Sure. So, how could you summarize a couple tips, some guidance for employers so that they don't miss some of those gems as a result of their standard recruitment and selection process?
Well, there are so many. I'll give you a couple, but there's probably millions. And given your listeners, what would be a gift for all employers for each other is to start collaborating. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do?
Yeah.
To build ideas. Our folks that we've talked to with vision loss said, you know what? Any company that just requires a written-based application, I can't apply.
Oh, wow. Right.
Like, if that's what I get, and they may be really, really, really great
Right.
for your business. They may be perfect, but right there, they can't apply if that's your only option. For some folks, having only an online application
Right.
could be a barrier, depending on certain things. For many, many folks, sitting there and staring at you,
Right.
they're going to have a hard time finding their words, but moving alongside, whether they're walking or rolling, right, they may use a wheelchair, moving alongside a conversation side by side. If I'm interviewing somebody to work at an animal shelter, how about we walk around the shelter? I could do both. We could sit at the table and look at each other, but there are probably many jobs, I don't know, gardening store. Like, why can't we move?
Right.
So those are basics. I encourage people to, in WorkPower for Employers, listen to the employer stories section.
Okay.
We wanted in making this to listen to employers for two reasons. One, to listen for alignment. As we are creating this, are we creating scenarios and situations and strategies that are in alignment with current best practices as those who are succeeding, leading folks with different types of personalities, ways of being, abilities? Took a while to find folks. What we end up finding as our best strategy was we asked people who have disabilities and workplace experience, have you ever worked with anybody that you thought was an amazing supervisor?
Nice. Yeah.
And Claire, these are just amazing human beings. And I will tell you one thing that a lot of them had in common is early in our conversation, they'd talk to me because somebody that it was like, this person said you were really good at this, and I know you don't know me, right?
Yeah.
Almost all of them in these early conversations said, I'm happy to talk to you because that person. But then they'd say some version of, I don't think I do anything special. I think I do everybody else does. And then in listening, I would say, actually,
Kind of special.
And one person in there named Durley, I'd love people to listen to Durley's story. Durley talked about an amazing person on her team, and it came up for a different reason that I'll let people listen to when they hear it. There's a reason she started talking about this person. But when I said, how'd you end up with that person on your team? She was just walking to a cafe, the cafe she goes to all the time with the dog, her dog. And this person at the cafe gave attention to her dog and they started talking. And well, I can't say that I know it was speech. Durley knows some ASL. This person was deaf.
Yeah.
And they started communicating.
Yeah.
And Durley just really enjoyed this person and they kept seeing each other at the cafe. Well, and she said, you just seem like somebody who would work at our company for what we do. And I think, and Durley then describes in the employer stories section, it's not very long, it's like a 4-minute clip, how they did the interview process so that what this person did was still answering the same questions. So that it was like, and then the process of working that person into the team that was really so strong. But I can't really tell you, go to the cafe and walk a dog as a tip.
Right.
But I think what Durley would say is that was a tip. And what she does now is she carries her business cards all the time. She says that now. Because she says, people are around me all the time.
Yeah.
That was her sort of light bulb moment. So there are the basics we can do.
Right.
Can everybody access my application? Am I sure?
Yeah.
Am I sure I don't want the people? Am I sure I don't want them? How do I know that I don't want those who can? How do I know? How do I know they're not the shining piece of gold that I have been waiting for? And I think Durley might say they're everywhere.
Yeah. How great. So in a sense, you're saying, start opening up the conversation. Ask your network. Ask people, what are you doing differently here? What are your unique strategies? Where are some of those nuggets, of gold that you have uncovered? And how did you do it?
Yes.
And then to be creative with your systems and take a real person-centered approach. Ultimately, you're looking for a whole human being. You're looking for a whole human being,
Being respectful
Yeah.
is such a positive thing.
Yeah.
If somebody experiences your interview process as respectful and honoring them as an individual person,
Right.
even if they're not hired by you, they still experienced that positive experience, which could leave a lasting positive experience about your brand and your business.
Right.
But what a great start for the person that you do hire.
Absolutely. That's so great. Erika, this is such an enlivening conversation. I sure appreciate you. I appreciate your energy and your commitment to this kind of making the world such a better place in so many ways. I want you to remind us one more time, it's self-aware, taking charge.
Awareness is both outside of you and inside of you. Self-awareness is inside, externalities as well. Yeah.
Be aware. Okay.
Yes.
Take charge. And that's the take charge with. Okay. And what was number 3?
Get help. And that's
help.
in community. That's that networking.
Yeah.
Get help. If we as leaders, and that was so much of the heartache of those stories that we told you,
Yeah.
that I told you about at the beginning, while so much of the heartbreak was often experienced by the employees who had disabilities, who felt unseen or disrespected, or who got laid off without getting an opportunity, like we could see the harm there. It was so easy to see that employers were often isolated,
Yeah.
not sure what to do, not sure who to ask, afraid what might happen, afraid they do the wrong thing. And that's that getting help part. When we build skills-based conversations, not what are you afraid of,
Right.
but rather what do you do that works? What do you do that helps all your employees of all abilities thrive? What do you do? Then that's the getting help part. Community with your mentors, however you define that, which is probably people like Claire Laughlin and podcasts.
I love that. Be aware, take charge, and get help. So important. So important. Words of wisdom. Absolutely love it. Okay. Well, so again, let's reiterate for our listeners, where can people find this wonderful, amazing resource that you've talked about?
People can go to safetypowers.org and see quite a few. Safetypowers.org/employers will go directly to the WorkPower for Employers resource.
Excellent. I'm going to put all that in the show notes. Any final words of wisdom? Anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
You mentioned when we first started doing about this conversation, is there anything that all leaders are getting wrong? I thought, I think so many of us, maybe it's not all, Claire, but I'm going to include myself in it. We're missing so many opportunities to ask ourselves, how do I know? Just when we they don't care about this. How do I know?
Right.
They're exhausted. How do I know?
Yeah.
And what that leads to, again, that links to that curiosity that's reflected throughout the course and through this conversation. And such a key to thriving.
Yeah. What am I seeing and what assessment am I making? I often say to myself, what story am I telling myself? Like to remind myself, like when you say, how do I know? It's like, what am I telling myself about this situation that makes me feel like I know something, right? How do I know?
And when I begin with that question, how do I know? I don't have to have an answer, but it might make it easier to take charge of the conversations to learn more.
Love that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Erika. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Claire.
Oh, I love talking to Erika. She is one of the most energized people I know. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Erika for a long time. And one thing Erika said near the end of our conversation really stuck with me. Those 3 words, right? She said, how do I know? How do I know? Oops, those are 4 words. But think about how often we skip that question entirely. Like we assume we know why someone's distracted or disengaged or not performing without ever pausing to ask. I'll tell you that tiny shift from assumption to curiosity, that's where real connection begins. So don't miss this. You can explore the WorkPower resources at safetypowers.org/employers. And those resources are completely free thanks to a funding from Ability Central, which funds organizations and projects such as WorkPower that expand access to communication and information. So learn more about Ability Central at abilitycentral.org. All those links are going to be in the show notes. Check it out. It's completely free and it's an amazing set of resources. So go check out those resources, share with a friend. We probably all know someone who could benefit from utilizing this free resource. Until next time, my friends, go lead the way.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about my services and for lots of free resources and additional tools to enrich your journey, visit my website and subscribe to my newsletter at clairelaughlin.com. If you have a question about leadership, teams, or organizational culture you'd like me to address on the podcast, please reach out to me at support@clairelaughlin.com and connect with me on social channels at Claire Laughlin Consulting. Until next time, lead the way.